think we're on here. So what I'm doing today is I have 50 trays and I need to fill them with soil blocks, and I need to do it today, and I have to get them seeded. And so I'm really not looking forward to this. So I thought I'd do a live video and then you guys can come hang out with me. So I got my 2 soil blockers, and I will not be double fisting because that's impossible. But I prepped up some soil, and I kind of have like a station going on. First thing I'm going to do is, I talked about this in like a soil, when I talked about my soil block maker. This handle like destroys my hand. It's this tiny little wire. So what I have here is I have a racket. I don't know, like wrap, I guess is what it's called. And so I'm going to put it onto the handle of the soil block maker, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit more comfortable. Because last year I did about 20 trays of soil blocks once, and like it destroyed my hands. My hands were like aching and sore for probably like over a week. It was really bad. I have weak little lady hands. I told Ian he was going to have to be the one responsible for the soil blocks, but that isn't actually going to happen. So I'm hoping that this fancy retrofit I'm going to do on my soil block maker here will save my hands. Today, Ian is working on something super exciting. I gave him the camera and I told him he had to film lots of stuff so we can make a video of it. But like over on the other channel, we did a live video on Wednesday, and his buddy is visiting right now, and he is more of a carpenter than Ian, because Ian is not a carpenter at all. And so the two of them are working together, and they're building me like a window greenhouse. We had all these windows, and we have a bunch of like corrugated plastic that we picked up last year, and the plan was we were going to build it up near the house this like later in the summer, kind of like early fall, when we have a little bit more time. But we got to take advantage of Tyson while we can, and so that's what he's working on, and I'm super excited because as I was getting ready to do this, I realized I don't actually have anywhere for 50 trays of soil blocks to go. So hopefully they also will have it done by the end of the weekend, and then I can move all these soil blocks out into my new greenhouse, because the other greenhouse, things are getting very, very crowded very quickly, and I haven't even started potting up the tomatoes yet. But yeah, I'm starting to realize maybe doing all the seedlings, maybe it was like a bigger job than I thought it was when I first came up with the idea, because it's definitely taking up a bunch of space. Okay, this is like working out pretty good. I know this camera is like total garbage, but it actually is getting pretty padded on there. So farming our backyard for the soil block maker, I'm like on and off about it. But yesterday I actually was planting the first thing into my garden. I did up a tray of choys and trying to pop out the seedlings out of like the seedling tray, you know, like a 72 tray. It was taking me forever. And, you know, part of it was the fact that maybe the seedlings are a little bit smaller than ideally they should have been. Like, so they weren't root bound enough. But yeah, so when I was trying to pop them out, it took so long, and it was such a hassle that it kind of made me rethink the amount of hassle that doing the soil blocks are into a new way. Because once you have the soil blocks, you don't you basically have like I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a soil block tray, you just take it straight out and you plant it into the garden. And so you don't have to pop the seedlings out. So it does take a little bit longer to make the soil blocks in the first case. But you're saving a huge amount of time on the back end. So, I mean, I haven't made soil, like, I've made a few soil blocks this spring, but I haven't done like a mass soil block making session since last year. So ask me that question again next week. if my hands are killing me, maybe I won't feel as stoked on the soil blocks. But yeah, like as it sits right now, I'm feeling more positive about soil blocks than even the seedling trays, just because I have good luck, and maybe it's going to save me a lot of time. As for Mary, for when to start seeding into your garden, that's all super relative to where you are. Probably the best way to get information on that is to first figure out what zone you're in, and you can just like look up like where you live and in like a Google and say like Minneapolis, like gardening zone, and it'll give you an answer for that. And then once you have your zone, then you look up like planting guidelines for that specific zone. Where I am, it's a zone 5. And so all the like the planting times have to do with like when your first and last frost are of the season. And my last frost of the season, so like when you're supposed to start, is actually beginning of May. So the stuff that I just like I said, I planted my first thing out in the garden. It's a little bit of a risk. But it's also cold hardy stuff. I planted out like a giant red mustard, and I planted out some choys, and so it's the type of stuff that I plant in my fall garden that can like handle some, like a light frost. And then I'm just gonna have to kind of keep track. Oh, you're gonna be sadly disappointed for leaving a party to see me make soil blocks. Okay, look at this. That looks like almost fancy. I feel like I did a pretty good job. And so what this was that I was wrapping on there, because I know no one was here when I was talking about that. This is like Ian used to play squash. And so this is like a squash like racket handle wrap. And so it's foamy, and then it kind of, so I have 2 layers of that on there, and like I'm hoping that this will save my hands. The one thing that I hate about soil blocks is that it's very, very hard on the hands. Okay, get the gloves on. Time to make the magic happen. So what I got here is, I'm sitting on a table. I apologize profusely for this live stream quality, because so small channels, they like made a new rule apparently that if you have less than 1,000 subscribers, you can't use your mobile. And usually when I live stream, which also isn't the best quality, it's on my mobile. And so like I know when I watch back my test from yesterday that this was it was kind of laggy for the audio, and that's just my bad webcam, and I know the image is pretty bad. I'm gonna have to see what I can do if I want to do live streams on this channel. I'm probably gonna have to get a solution. But yeah, so that's my apology for bad quality. So what I have is I have 50 of these trays, and they have holes in them. Like, I don't know if you can see. I can see you guys. So with the soil blocks, I want a little bit of drainage, whereas some of my other trays have no holes, and I can do bottom watering. But yeah, so these have holes. I have a 50 pack of these. I need to fill them up. 2-inch soil block is what I'm using, and the 2-inch soil block means I can fit 50 of them in each tray, and I have like so many things I need to do. I have about like 150 different varieties of seeds that I need to get started in the next little bit. But let's see. Okay, here, I'm gonna change the camera angle a little bit so you won't see my face, but you can see some action. So what I have is I have my soil here, and it's like super soppy wet. That's like what you want to do to make soil blocks. And then I have it in this tub, which is flat on the bottom. I have another bin that I mixed up a lot of soil in, but it's like ridged like this. You want something flat so that when you take the soil blocker and cram it through the soil, it'll stuff in there evenly rather than have some spots that are less. So this is basically, this is what I'm working with, just because this is smaller and I can move it around. And then I have a big bin that I've done up. But yeah, so for the soil block, you just take it, cram it into the dirt. In this case, it's nice and flat on the bottom, so I can like rub it. And then I usually like to give it a little bit of a press down to compact the soil blocks. And then you lift it up, so you can see the soil's all crammed in there. And then it's fairly flat on the bottom. If when you pull it up, if you go like this and it's like all mounded up, then it's a good idea to take it and like push off the extra just to get it as flat as possible, just because they sit better that way. And then you take it, you put it in the tray, and then you slowly release it. And then you have these perfect little blocks. And the first time I used this, I'd seen people make these on the internet, and I was like, yeah, right, like these actually hold together. These are gonna fall apart right away, but they don't. They hold together super good. And then as long as you're delicate with watering, like you wanna use like a gentle spray type watering mister. And then they hold together really good. And by the time they start to age, and they're like a month old and they're not as strong, the roots have started to kind of colonize in all the soil, and then they actually hold the blocks together. So yeah, it feels like some sort of witchcraft, because it seems insane that dirt could just get compressed into these shapes and actually turn into like pots that can be handled. But it isn't witchcraft, or if it is, then I'm fine with that because it works really good. And so what I'm doing, the reason why I'm making so many of these is these are actually seedlings that I'm going to be selling. Here, I don't know what if you guys want to see the blocks or see my lovely grainy face. Yeah, so what I'm doing, why I'm making so many of these is I have a bunch of seedlings that I'm going to be selling this year as like selling vegetable seedlings for home gardeners and things like that. And I did it last year, and I don't want to be using a lot of plastic. Like one of Ian and I's biggest concerns with doing the farming thing is we've come to realize how much plastic is involved in the actual farming. And so we want to try to limit it as much as possible, because it's kind of like, it's the concept of there's only so much you can limit plastic, like as a consumer, but as an actual producer, like manufacturers and stuff like that, that's like where people need to start making differences. We're actually gonna, get to have like a less waste society, like, zero waste ideas. Yeah, so being like the farming, that means like that's a place that Ian and I can like actually try to make a difference, because there actually is a lot of potential for plastic waste in farming. So one of our goals is to, kind of limit that as much as possible. And so one of the ways for like doing seedlings is, like obviously a lot of gardeners reuse their pots, but in my experience, the gardeners who are coming and buying someone else's seedlings aren't necessarily the ones reusing their pots. So if I was to, sell 5,000 seedlings, like fingers crossed, could you imagine if I could sell 5,000 seedlings? But yeah, if I did that and every single one of those seedlings was in a plastic pot, that'd be 5,000 plastic pots that I sent into the universe that aren't necessarily going to get reused. And there are all these ideas about, I could tell people to bring back their plastic pots and I'd reuse them in future years. But it's a hassle. It's a hassle for me to take them back from people. It's a hassle for people to get them back to me. you know, all of that stuff kind of just adds up to, like, it's just difficult. And if things are difficult, then, you know, it's harder to actually continuously make those changes. So last year, the story is like last year we did up a ton of seedlings because last year was the first year that I had a greenhouse in the springtime. And before that, I'd always either had a friend who started my seedlings for me, or I bought seedlings from a local nursery. And last year I had the greenhouse, so I was like, okay, awesome. I'm gonna do my own seedlings. And I did up a bunch of extras, you know, like a couple hundred extras, nothing crazy, to share with like family and friends, and then to, like, you know, maybe try to sell a few. My Instagram account, I don't have a ton of people on my Instagram account that are local. It's kind of like the YouTube. Like, I know a lot of you guys are like in California and Florida and Texas. Like, those are kind of my biggest like viewer places. But I did have some people that I've, you know, made friends with on the Instagram that were local, and they were saying, oh, I'd love to get some stuff from you. Okay, here, ready, guys? 1 down, 49 to go. Look at that. Beautiful little pots. The one bad thing about these trays is they fit 50, but so you have to do like a half run for your very last one to fill it to the perfect empty. Sorry, I'm reading the comments here. I'm so bad at multitasking. I really shouldn't do live videos because I have like a hard time talking and like actually seeing what you guys are saying at the same time. Okay, but yes, back to my long-winded story. Because I'm nothing close to concise. No one could ever accuse me of telling timely short stories. Okay, so I'm doing back to that. Okay, last year doing seedlings was also going to do a few for other people. That's basically the sum up of what I was just saying. And so what then happened is, out of nowhere, we decided to move, like really suddenly, like so suddenly that I already had all my plants like started for my garden. I had this entire like plan for what I was going to do with my garden for that year. I had like things planted in my garden, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, we're like out of here in a month. So I sold all my seedlings that I had, and a lot of the seedlings were done up in these soil blocks, or they were done up in the paper pots. Here, I got some paper pots. Yeah, so, or like so instead of doing like a 4-inch plastic, I did like these, and these like, yet again, same as these soil blocks, these hold together super well. And by the time, you know, a plant in here a month later, it's starting to come through, like the roots are starting to come through, and then you don't have to unpot it. It's the same as kind of what I was saying about what's so nice about the soil blocks. You just put it right in the ground. You don't have to fuss with pulling it in and out of the pot. So these worked really great for tomatoes and things like that. Yeah, that actually, thanks, Ecocentric Homestead. I hate these trays. I'm so mad about these trays. I hate all these like, that's another reason why I'm even more into doing the soil blocks and things like that. I've just been so disappointed in the quality of plastic gardening materials I've been able to find this year. It's just all garbage. Like, I was like, I want to buy the nicest quality stuff. And like, I was talking to like the people at the farming place where we picked up a bunch of the stuff, and I was like, I'll pay more. I want to get good stuff. And it isn't. And so we're friends with Curtis Stone. I know a bunch of you guys know him because he's like the urban farmer. And so he, like, because we're starting up the farm this year, he's like, we've talked to him about getting some stuff. I mean, so the Bootstrap Farmer, I've seen their stuff, but I'm in Canada, and their price in Canada is like really expensive. Like I think I can find better quality stuff for the price, just because it's like selling stuff from the States and Canada just instantly gets dinged with a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Honestly, the stuff that I used last year, like Alicia, is I think the same stuff that West Coast Seeds carries, and it was way better quality. Like it was really nice, and but I couldn't find them in bulk. Like I bought 200 trays this year, but yeah. So about the good quality trays, like we're friends with Kurt, and he was showing us his like paper pot trays, and he has like these new ones that he's come out with this year that don't have holes in them, so you can like bottom water the paper pot strips, and they're really nice. Like they're a really nice product, like super strong and like a really nice size. And then because they're only short, all of his stuff is usually quite short. It's just easier to store, easier to stack, and all that. So I've been thinking about maybe doing that, but I don't know. Like I just like I said, I'll make 50 trays of this and see if my hands destroy me. But I think the soil blocks might be the way to go. And if I'm doing soil blocks, then maybe I should just make wooden trays for myself. Maybe like for the money that I'd spend, I could just get wooden trays, and then it's something that like when they're at the end of their life, they can go in the compost pile. It's a renewable resource, being wood. You know, even I was thinking about like buying something metal, but Ian and I have even been talking about how, you know, like metal's kind of it's not a renewable resource in the same way that wood is. So, you know, it's like, if I really do like these, and we are going to be doing like thousands and thousands of seedlings a year for doing all the farming stuff, you know, maybe the wood's the way to go. And then the wood will last, you know, like 5 to 10 years. And when it's done, we just, you know, build more as we need them. But then the issue with the wood is they don't stack. You know, Ian's not going to be able to make like an angled. But if I make them short, I don't know. There's no good solutions. That's definitely not pressure treated wood. It would have to be like proper, like nice cedar or something. But you could do it like in a strapping size, so you could get an okay price for the wood. Okay, I'm gonna fill this back up. I don't know if you guys can see over here. This is my bin, and this is my soil, and I got some compost and some organic fertilizer. This is just, I needed it in a size that I could move it onto the table. The spot that I am right now is inside my like the kitchen space in our barn, which has kind of gotten turned into my potting space because I've been using the kitchen sink. It has like one of those like extending things, and then I can use it to like a hose to spray water everywhere. Okay, I just need to get a little bit of water. Ah! I sprayed water everywhere. No big deal. Fine. It's a good thing no one lives in here. I can see what you're saying, like behaving about the cedar. Like I've heard of that, but I think for the amount that it would leach, you know, like I think it would be fine. You know, like worst case scenario, it would help bottom prune the roots if they start to get too root bound. Yeah, the chicken wire is not a bad idea. The only thing about the chicken wire is it then might have the same concern as this, which is it just starts to bow. Like you know, like a handful of dirt doesn't really weigh much, but when it has the water in it, it starts to actually, like, it has some weight to it. Yeah, another issue is it's like here in Canada, we're kind of limited to like what you can find in the hardware store. I don't know if it's like I actually want to go and try to, you know, get someone to mill me strapping, but it's kind of like pine or cedar. That's like what we have all over the place. as our common wood. So it'd be easy to find the cedar strapping size, but I don't, you know, it might just be too much effort, more effort than it's worth to try to source out like a better wood when, you know, I've had stuff with the cedar before and haven't really had too many issues. Okay, I totally got off topic, but the point of my story about it's not going as flat as it was. So one trick too about this, apparently if they start to not come out smoothly, you're supposed to take it, and I have like a bucket of water here, and you basically like give it a wash, and then it's all cleaned up, and then they should start to pop out a little bit better. Okay, yeah, so what I was saying is last year I did seedlings. They were supposed to be for me. Then I went to sell them, and they were all these soil blocks, and they were all these things done in the paper pots, and people were super excited. People said that was like a reason for them to want to buy them. And the soil blocks, you know, they had to get handled for me to sell them. Like I was like taking them, you know, one at a time out of the tray as like a plant, because people wanted like 2 of the dinosaur kale and 3 cauliflower. And so basically I was taking the soil blocks as like a set piece, putting them together for people's orders, and they held together really, really well. And people were super happy with having, like, they were like, no one batted an eye to buy the soil block seedlings. Everyone was more than happy to buy that as a product. They didn't see it being a soil block as it being something negative, which I didn't necessarily know that was going to be the case. I thought maybe people would be like, oh, like weird garbage thing. But people were excited about the fact that it was like plastic-free gardening. Like we live in an area where there's lots of gardening going on, and people care about that kind of stuff. Like people are into the idea of zero waste. We don't have a massive population here, but we have like multiple like zero waste stores, and you know, like in my local mom group, they're always asking each other like where they can buy things in bulk. So you know, there is like a culture of people like aware of wanting to limit their plastic waste, and those people also garden. So you know, I found it really interesting that people were so happy to buy the soil blocks. And also that was like the ultimate test for how strong a soil block is, of if they can get handled in the way like a nursery handles their seedlings. Okay guys, I don't know if any of you have done soil blocks. I currently have like the 2 trays stacked on each other, but I'm feeling worried about keeping them stacked if they'd like smash the blocks. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna go put this down. The one problem I haven't come up with a solution for yet is what I'm gonna do with all these blocks. Hey, maybe I have 2 cats in here that like to step on my seedling trays, which would make me very sad. They stomp. Yeah, like it was fine while I had it just sitting here, but that's behaving. That's a cool idea. The way that my plan for selling these is I'm gonna hit up like my local. I'm gonna try to talk to my local like cold beer and wine store and see if I can, you know, like, grab all their beer trays, like all their, oh, messed up on that one, all their trays that they ship the cans in, you know, they just get thrown in the recycling. So I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help me out with it. And then I can use those for people to take their seedlings home in. Because the one issue about the soil block is you can't just like put it, you know, on the seat of your car. You do need something. And another thing that happened last year was some of the people were buying seedlings, but then they were doing like a bunch of errands after. And so like in a hot car, the soil blocks could start to dry out really fast, which like I was a little bit concerned about. For people said that, you know, on like a 30-degree day, they're gonna go do 2 more hours of shopping in their car. So for those people, I was giving them like a cardboard tray for it to sit on, and then I put the soil blocks in, and then I took newspaper and I wet the newspaper and I kind of mulched the blocks in wet newspaper just to keep them in a little bit more of a moist atmosphere. And people said that worked, that they didn't really dry out. Yeah, because I found the soil blocks, that is like one thing about them, because we're like hot and dry here, and the soil blocks needed to get watered twice a day. They definitely, they dried out faster than seedlings in like a plastic tray that's kind of holding the moisture in. You know, it wasn't an issue for me because, you know, I have a hose that goes out to the greenhouse, and for the greenhouse that I have to manually open and shut it every morning. So it's basically like in the morning I go out, open up all the greenhouse when the sun's like getting warm, give everything a water, and then in like the late afternoon, I'd go and I'd shut the greenhouse and give everything a water again. But the soil blocks might be a little bit difficult if you live somewhere that's really hot and, you know, you like work and like have a big commute. So you're kind of gone for 10 hours of the day, and, you know, they might dry out within that time. You're not able to get in there and give them some life-saving water. Well, I will say this wrap is making a huge difference so far. I have a little like counter in the corner for like how long I've been living for. It's like, oh, I got like my very own little like soil block timer. I know there's like a handful of different farm channels that I like to watch on YouTube to get all inspired. And so now I'm trying to remember the name of the channel. It's Farmer Jesse, and he's all no-till, but the name of his channel, I think, is the name of his farm. And for the life of me, I cannot remember it, but he had a video where he talks about, you know, building a farm's worth amount of soil blocks. And he was, you know, he's doing it in the video and he's like pounding them out. He's like been doing it for years, and he was doing like a tray a minute. And so in that case, to do, you know, like 50 trays, that's only an hour of like work for like someone who's that experienced with the soil blocks, which is, you know, that's pretty good on the time. Because it's like, even if it took me a half an hour to prep the soil, because that's about how long it took me to get this all mixed in. Because so my recipe for my soil block mix is, there's no way I'm mixing my own potting soil. It's too much hassle. So I bought potting soil, and then I added in some organic fertilizer and a little bit of compost, because I have a big mountain of compost. And then you got to stir it up so it's like evenly distributed. And then the potting soil, because it's peat based, you literally need to put like 10 gallons of water into it. The peat just takes so much moisture before it's wet enough. And you need the water that's like dripping out of there. That's what you need the soil block mixture to be. It needs to be like wet to be able to get them to make nice solid soil blocks. But yeah, so to mix this up, to blend it, to get the water all in there and give it like a really good mix, took me about a half an hour. So, you know, and then even to say clean up. If I could get as fast as he is with the soil blocks, that's like 2 hours to do like a bunch of blocks. And, you know, at a certain point, if I'm filling trays, I still have to do the prep and clean up. So I don't know. I'm like, I think that soil blocks might be a good use of time. Like they might be a good way to do things when you have to like plant stuff out in volume. Oh. Need a better system for this part though. Definitely need a better setup for next year. Ugh. Okay. We're almost at 150 of 2,500 in a half an hour. So I have a long way to go before I can be as good at soil blocks as Farmer Jesse, if I ever could. But I don't know. I'm still, they definitely solve a lot of the problems, I think. Boxes without lids? I don't know. That's another thing I have to buy this year that I still haven't found a good solution for. I need like storage boxes for like post-harvest. Oh, you mean like the domes. Yeah, I know what you mean. For the seedling things without the domes. If that's what you're talking about. I don't understand the domes, but I don't know. Maybe I also am not very good at seedlings, so there's probably some trick to it. I basically set up like a germination chamber with my bathroom system because it gets super humid and hot, and you know it's like just good growing in there in general. Oh no! Dropping blocks everywhere. Yeah, it seems like there is definitely an art to doing the seedlings. I definitely don't think I have what it takes to become a nursery for seedlings, because yeah, you go in, like, you see some of those like professional like nursery places, and it's like, how do they get like every single cell just like perfect? It's like incredible. We're all about good enough. Yeah, 60 or 70. I mean, that's not bad for germination. You know, I mean, 60 to 70 is all relative to what your germination for your seed is. If your seed was saying it was like a 75% germination, then you got most of the seed that was gonna germinate. Oh, okay. I know because I have that video about how my tomatoes were all like dying on me, and they were all, I think part of it was that they needed some nitrogen fertilizer, but the other part is that they're getting totally sunburned. And someone made a comment on it, which is interesting, because I've been leaving the lights on 24 hours a day because I couldn't figure out how to get my I have a timer on my power bar, but I couldn't get it to work. So I was like, yeah, whatever, it's tomatoes. They'll take 24 hours of sunlight. But yeah, maybe they're just getting a bit sunburned from like not getting like a dark period. But yeah, I started bottom watering them just to protect them from getting like the sun scorch from the water on the leaves. And that started to help. But then I had issues with a few of them dampening off and them just getting so waterlogged that they died. And that was the only time I've ever experienced that. Yeah. I mean, like I was using like potting mix. So it's like, you know, for me at least, you know, it's just me not knowing what I'm doing and making mistakes, I assume. But I know I've, like, in our old garden, we had a couple spots where the soil was quite heavy. Most of the soil I've ever grown in has just been more sand than anything else. But yeah, it gets tricky when you have to deal with that clay soil. You know, okay, so like, yeah, learning to do. But I was thinking about it, and I think maybe that's one of the things that I love most about gardening. It's the fact that no matter how long you've been doing it, no matter like, you know, how much you know, there's always more to know with gardening. If you you know, if you get to the point that you know exactly what you're doing for the one specific thing that you like to grow, then there's still so many more things that you can learn to grow. Like my whole like trying to learn thing. I mean, I'm trying to learn everything. I don't know at all what I'm doing this year. Trying to have a farm and, you know, trying to learn how to do like mass seedlings. You know, this is all learning curve. Like if you're the videos are for the lulls, not necessarily for the educational purposes. Our video content is to make you guys feel better when you guys mess up, because we are messing up seriously all the time. But my thing that I wanted to put some effort into is I wanted to learn more about growing flowers this year. And so to do that, one of the things that I did is I joined the local garden club. And so it's like I'm the youngest person by like a generation there. But there are all these like older women who've, you know, been growing stuff their entire lives, and they all have like one thing that they're super passionate about, and they're experts. They're experts on like this one specific topic. But then they all get together, and they're all like, even though they've been growing for 40 years, they get together and they hear about this thing that someone else is doing that they know nothing about, and they get super inspired and excited, and then they all want to start, you know, experimenting and trying that other thing that, you know, the expert will share with them. And, you know, it's like, that's kind of like, I see that, and it's like I get inspired by that. The fact that it doesn't matter how many years I've already been growing, and there's still so many more years to come, and there's so many more things to get excited about and learn about, and, you know, so many more people to get inspired from and learn from, like, their expertise. You're not being bad, are you? I have a bad cat. Here. Sylvester, you are so bad. Oh, this big fatty. Look at this fatty. This fatty fat has been caught peeing on some of my stuff. He's like such a bad cat. He's gonna get kicked out. This is basically their house. This is Sylvester, and he lived here before we lived here. So this is his house, because no one lives down here. And he's been getting mad because we're like here moving all his stuff around. So he's been being a pissy old male barn cat. He's been peeing on my seedling stuff, and I get mad at you when you do that. But all he wants is to get cuddled. All he wants is hugs and kisses. But don't pee on my things, please. Oh, he makes me so mad. He'll like come, he'll see that I'm spending all this time doing these like seedlings, and he wants attention from me, so he'll like go and pee on it. It's like such a bad cat thing to do. It's like the pinnacle of bad catness. But once the garage is finished, they're getting like a little cat zone in the garage so that out here can get cleaned up. All of my mess and all of their mess can start to get put back together. I always feel bad for them because they're like 12. It's him and Garfield, the one-eyed cat. Yeah, exactly. He wants snuggles. That's exactly what he wants. Yeah, but so they've been like barn cats forever, and the owners were like, "Oh, like, do you mind if we like leave these cats? They're just like barn cats. They're not like house cats." And then the second we moved in, they're all like, "Oh, like let us in the house. Like we need snuggles." They're just like they're the biggest sucks. They're definitely not farm cats, but I figure they maybe just didn't like the old owners. Because like cats are kind of like that. They'll be like, "I don't like you," but they decided that they liked us because Ian and I are cat obsessed. And so now he like Sylvester is especially like jealous of like if he sees any of the other cats getting pet, and like he just wants, if you sit down near him, he like climbs in your lap, or like you can pick him up and like carry him around, and he'll like make little sad baby cry noises. If you like put him down, he's like, "Pick me back up." So it's cute, but I could use with less cat pee in my life because that does not make me happy. It makes me very sad that I now know how to effectively deal with cleaning up cat pee because it's so hard to clean up. And it's like, oh, I have all the tricks now because I've done it so many times. Okay, it's been a while since I've shown how to do soil blocks. Should we do it again? Because I know that usually you guys don't stick around. Okay, here, ready? I'll give you the trick. So you take the soil blocker. Oh, it's full of dirt. Okay, then you get like a pile of dirt, and you want it like tall enough that it's like taller than the soil block. And then you cram the soil blocker into the dirt, and then you push it against the flat bottom so that you can press all the soil in. And then what I like to do is give it a little bit of a press just to compress the blocks really good. And then if you pick it up, you can see it's nice and flat in there. But if it's rounded, you want to like push off the sides because you want it flat so they sit nicely in the tray. And then you take it and you compress the handle, and then they just pop right out. It's that easy. Repeat 2,000 times. That is what I am doing here today, making soil blocks. What am I at? I'm at 4.5 of 50 trays, but I'm most definitely not going to do that all live. But I don't know. I think that this, so what I found when I've made soil blocks in the past is it destroys my hands. It hurts like really badly to do a bunch of these because the soil blockers have, here's my other, they have like this super thin wire, and you have to actually press like with some pressure onto here. So when you do that, it starts to ache because you're putting so much pressure on just like a small spot on your hand. So what I did is I wrapped some like foamy racket handle stuff on this one, and so far it's really comfortable. Like I don't even notice pressing down on it. It seems to be making all the difference. And that was my only issue that I had with making like the 20 trays. Because last year I made about 20, maybe 25 trays, and I did it all in one sitting, and then my hands hurt for like a week straight. So I did not like that. So this is my solution, and so far I'm happy with it. But I was wondering, so I don't know, Sarah, if you've had the egg cartons going for a while, But I always thought the egg cartons seemed like such a small space. Like I like the idea of like the cardboard because it would kind of like break down and you could do like that direct planting thing. But I always thought that maybe it's such a small amount of soil. It seems like the seedlings would get root bound in there really quickly, and then so they'd start off, and for the first 2 weeks they'd look really good, but then they'd die before they got big enough to get put out. I don't know if you've had any issues with that, but I've always just not tried it because I figured that's what would happen for me. But I see people doing it all the time. But I've seen, because like everyone's doing seed starting. Yeah, that makes sense. That they only stay in for a very short time. Yeah, everyone's like seed starting on, and so they're doing all their like seed starting content that I've been seeing like on YouTube and on Facebook. I'm in like some Facebook gardening groups. And it's interesting to see that like there's a bunch of really good techniques for like reusing, you know, like water bottles where you like cut it and then they kind of make like a wicking pot. And so it's fun to see some of those solutions that people have come up with. Okay, my soil blockers getting all, it starts to get a lot of dirt, I find, on the top. And so in the recipe, like there's like a soil block recipe that is really complicated. It's basically just potting soil that you like hand mix yourself. But along with the recipe was the recommendation that every time you make a soil block, you dip it in water again. And you've seen, I haven't been dipping it. But I find that eventually too much dirt starts to build up on here. And so then at that point, I do like to wash it. It doesn't, it rinses off super fast. And I will say this about soil blockers. So this one here, this literally sat in my greenhouse for like 3 months straight. And then when we got here, the kids played with it outside as a toy. So this wasn't like treated nicely. This wasn't hanging up in the garden shed. And it looks great. It's like, it's not rusty at all, which I was surprised. I thought I was going to be, oh, look at this. This is hilarious. It's got a little wasp's nest on it. Neglected all winter. They made it into the shed for the winter, but yeah, totally. I mean, I do the same thing, Sarah, for like the reusing the plastic. I actually found, because like I'm so mad at these are like so garbagey, but like I needed to buy something, so I just bought them because I had no time to order stuff in. But I was using, I'm gonna move this. Okay. I was using, like, I bought some croissants, and so it's those like big oversized plastic clamshells, and I was using those as a seedling tray, and they're like 100 times better than these stupid black actual seedling trays. So a lot of that stuff that, you know, could just be, it just gets thrown in the recycling or in the garbage, actually, you know, can have a lot of life. One thing that I've done in the past too, like I just thinking and seeing like the milk cartons. At first I was thinking like paper milk cartons, but you mean like the jugs of milk, I'm assuming. But I've cut the bottom off of those, and then you take the lid off, so then it's like, you know, like the small funnel that it comes up to. And those work really good as like mini greenhouses. Takes us so long to get hot enough for things like eggplants here in Kelowna, but like you could, you know, it's past the frost, but they need the extra heat in that like early spring period. And so I've actually taken them and like putting them straight over top of the plant, and they work great as like a cloche type idea. But yeah, there's, you know, once you start thinking about it, you can start to find lots of solutions. Okay. How many trays? 5 trays. 10% of the way done. Okay, I gotta put some water in here. Well, I will say this about this adventure. So like the big bucket of potting soil that I mixed up before I like started turning on the live video here is holds about 40 liters. Like one of my big bales is like 110 liters. And if I've only done 5 trays, like I'm getting pretty close to empty on this. So I think that this this entire job is probably going to take me like 2 entire big bales of soil to get done, which I'm kind of surprised. I bought 3 more bales thinking that would be enough, but sounds like more things added to the shopping list for Monday. I've been spending like crazy. Ian told me I'm allowed, but it's this farming business. You hope that once the infrastructure is built up, then it gets a little bit more affordable. But I can definitely recommit to the fact that I am only going to be going down in the monies in regards to being a professional farmer this year. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to have fields and fields of food. Ian and I are super excited for the farmer's market too. The farmer's market's like super small because it's just this little community farmer's market. Because we're not going to be going to like the big farmers market for Kelowna. We're going to be going to this like smaller community farmers market, and so there's not very many vendors. There's like 15 vendors. We checked it out a bunch of times, and it's always really quiet. It's Friday after work. It's like 3 to 7, and so like it just has this like really nice, relaxed feel to it. So we're super excited to go and get to meet like people in the community, get to meet like some of the other farmers. Farmers markets are always fun because you hang out, like when you work at them, you hang out beforehand when you're setting up, and like you get to like shoot the poop with all your neighbors. And oh man, Sarah, the house building is the thing that I have a hard time with. That's the one thing I don't want to have to do. That was part of the reason why we like moved here so quickly. We're in the process of doing like a reno on our house, and then it was like, how about we just move instead? but yeah, super exciting. 10 acres. Can definitely do a lot with 10 acres. I know just our 2.5 acres here will keep Ian and I busy for the rest of our lives. And then the one thing that I like best about the fact that we're only 2.5 acres is the space is so limited that I can tell Ian that there's not enough space for garbage. So then I don't have to worry about him bringing home like project cars, even though he's not a mechanic and things like that. He's like, there's only enough space for like 1 or 2 toys. So, okay. My fingers are starting to get a little bit sore. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm like hooking my pinky in like a weird spot. I'm putting it in there. It's like rubbing a little bit. Like the one bad thing about the soil blocks is because the soil has to be so wet, and so then your gloves get wet, so then you're working on them with like wet hands. My hands can sometimes they get sensitive, they get all chafy. Yeah, having a friend who has some experience building stuff is definitely a big is a great resource to have. Like at the beginning, I was saying what Ian is working on today is we have one of his friends that's visiting who has a lot of construction experience. Like Ian doesn't really have a ton of like carpentry experience. He knows how to use tools and things like that. But he's more of like the carpenter's assistant than he is the carpenter himself. But his friend is good and knows what he's doing and knows how strong things have to be and how to do the, more complicated, less obvious, build a square type stuff that Ian can do. But what they're working on right now is they're building me a greenhouse, and it's like a fancy greenhouse with like windows, and we have like corrugated plastic, and it's gonna have like a peak and be like pretty and like the type of thing that's in someone's like pretty little cottage garden. So I'm really excited and very happy that we have that resource of the friend coming and helping out. We were teasing him that he's our first woofer ever, because Ian and I have talked about maybe doing like the woofing site and like inviting people to come, because we're a couple of hippies, so obviously we should start a commune. But it's Ian and I, like we don't necessarily do anything like there's a fire under our butts. We just like put away at stuff, and things get done because we put away at it every day. But having someone there like makes a huge difference for like getting like motivated, especially when someone is like super excited. Like Tyson's super stoked on this greenhouse project, so he's excited to see it going together. He's like, let's keep working, like let's break for lunch, but then quickly get back out there. And so it's fun to see how much can go together having a hand, and and having fresh eyes too. Like that's another benefit of having some people over onto the property that like people are excited about like the ideas, so they want to like be there and like want to help. But then like maybe aren't as invested as me and Ian. Sometimes when you get over invested in something and then you don't see the easy solutions. That was one of the biggest reasons we started this channel, when we lost the comments on our other channel, because we've gotten so many good tips, and like I say, you guys are all my like occupational health and safety officers who are doing efficiency assessments on Ian and I. Like there's tons of stuff that last year Ian and I were doing super wrong, and you guys were like, what are you doing? Like, pull your truck up. Like, why are you hauling stuff with the wheelbarrow? Just drive your truck over there. And we're like, we're just not used to having a space where you can like drive your truck. It's just, you don't think about it. Or like we stacked our wood all wrong, and you guys had like tons and tons of good tips. And so when we like lost out on the comments because of all the kid stuff on the other one, it was like, well, still good to use the other one for the kid stuff, but we gotta get all of our tips. That's the benefit. Yeah, the peanut gallery, but actually useful. So you get a better name than the peanut gallery, because the peanut gallery implies that all you're good for is throwing peanut shells everywhere. But there is definitely some very helpful people. Even like mainly I use Instagram a ton. Like I love Instagram. And so I'm always like sharing my pictures on Instagram, and I've like people there are like super good. And like I've gone on Instagram with like pictures and been like, I need help identifying this plant, and like within 15 minutes someone's like gotten back to me and been like, this is what it is. Just like having that resource of of people who want to help you out is amazing. And then, you know, it's like same with the YouTube. But like, I don't do much on Facebook, but even on Facebook, we've had some people like contact us with some super helpful info. Like there's someone that we've talked to a few times on Facebook named Barton, and like he actually gave us a ton of good tips when we were looking at tractors. He didn't give us the best tip of all, which is don't buy a tractor, which is the tips that Ian probably wouldn't have listened to anyways, because now we have a tractor to get rid of, because only tractor we need is my lady tractor, the BCS, and the other one has just been here leaking diesel fluid all over my beautiful agricultural land. But marital bliss means sometimes you pick your fights. And so Ian was allowed to buy a tractor. Oh, almost refill time. I'm so close to finishing this tray. Okay, let's one handful. And then I'll have this tray done. What are we at? This will be 8. No, 7. Well, I'm definitely not gonna do all of these. Yeah, ATV. Honestly, the distance is so short. I don't know if here. Let's see. You can almost see what I have this. Here, tilt this a bit. What I have the soil on here is like I bought like a nice garden cart, and it has like the wheels that can do like the off-road and everything, and it rolls super easy. And I bought that because I was moving my seedlings in and out, in and out, in and out all day, every day. And having this is like amazing. Like, I think it's like a gorilla cart. I can't remember the name of it. Here, the box is here. Let's see if it has a name on it. It's no name. But yeah, like it was expensive. Yeah, but the issue is, it's like, honestly, like I don't need the power. The distance between like the greenhouse and like the new farm and the garage where there's going to be, that's like, so in the garage of the barn is where we're going to build the walking cooler, and then just outside of the garage we're going to build like a washing station. And like the distance between the greenhouse and that is, I can measure it because I had to get hoses. It's about 50 feet between like the garage and the greenhouse. And like the greenhouse is here, and then the farm is just right here, and then like the garage is there. So it's like, even at its furthest, it's like it's 100 feet of distance. And so like this cart is quite big. I think that it's like 24, like 2 feet by 4 feet. And like it, you know, so it holds a lot. And then like I've had it weighed down. I think that it's good to up to like 250 pounds. And it rolls like there's nothing on there. It's, you know, it's deceiving, I think, sometimes, like when I get talking about stuff, like, you know, how much we're gonna grow in the farm, and like how much like what we want to do and all these things. And you know, like now, like we tilled up, because we did the video, I think, of like tilling the farm, and it was pretty crazy to see it, to like have it tilled, and it's like, it seems so small, but then to think that, you know, according to my plan, it's going to be like a crazy amount of food. It's going to be food for 40 families to get, like, you know, good sized veggie box off of it every week, and then have tons of leftover too. And you know, so I think maybe part of it is that you know, we had the urban backyard, and we had a ton of stuff going on in the urban backyard. So coming out here, it still feels massive to us. Like there's more space than we know what to do with. But we have the context of knowing how much you can build and do in a small space, because we've been working in a small space for so many years. You know, one of the things that all the market gardener people always talk about is how much space you lose to using like the bigger scale infrastructure type stuff. So like a tractor has a turning radius even wider than a truck. So if you want to have a farm that a tractor can work on, you need like a 2-lane road around all the spaces that the tractor has to go. And you know, Ian has his like truck that he uses on the farm here, and I don't even necessarily want driveways everywhere. Like we're talking about putting wood storage at the bottom half of the property, and that just makes sense because it's kind of like, you know, out of sight, out of mind, because it has to sit for a year. But it also means that then we need a driveway to the very end of our property, and you know, it takes up space. It all starts to fill things in that could get filled in other ways. So like obviously the rule of anything is, you know, I say something and then I instantly do the other thing, because I have an entire YouTube channel that's about why it's stupid to buy a farm, and then I went and bought a farm anyways. So, you know, maybe I'll be all stoked on tractors in 2 years, but for now, it's kind of like what I've been saying about the soil blocker. Like I wasn't super stoked on the idea of doing the soil blocker for the farm stuff, because like this, you know, I've been at it for an hour. Like I've been doing this for an hour and a half, and you know, I'm only part of the way through getting all these soil blocks done. But when I went to plant out things that were in the plugs, it took so long to take the plugs out that it made me realize that there's issues with that too. So sometimes something that seems like so primitive, like the soil blocker, it's like, how is this like the best solution to seedlings, you know, depending on how it's getting used and the space that it's getting used in and stuff. You know, it starts to make a little bit more sense when you consider a few more aspects to it. But it's, you know, it's also personal too, right? Like everyone has different goals and different like morals to like make those decisions. But it would be fun to, the other problem with a golf cart is or like a gas cart is Sam would want to drive it all the time. So just for that reason, save me a lifetime of worry not to have my crazy toddler have another thing to be obsessed with, because he loves all of that kind of stuff. He's always on the tractor, pretending to drive the tractor, but the tractor at least is so complicated that he could never figure out how to drive the tractor. But I know for a fact he'd be able to start up those little ATV carts. That's like, I could totally imagine. Like the paper pots is that, or like the paper pots that I've like talked about making. I mean, like I've seen it, right? I've seen it in action, because like Kurt is the co-owner in that business. It's like him and a buddy. So like I've seen Kurt using them, and like, you know, there's so much info on it online. My only, like, the only reason why I haven't like gone out and bought one already is it's pricey. It's the paper pot machine and everything. Yeah, I think it's Diego Footer, something like that. Yeah, the machine itself is a tool, so it costs money. But the pot, like, so you need to buy the cardboard insert for doing it. And the cardboard insert is pretty expensive, and that's like it's not like a one-time purchase, like when you buy a tool and then, you know, like the $1,000 for the paper pot transplanter, like, you know, starts to pay for itself when you have it for 10 years, and so then it was only $100 a year. But yeah, you need to be doing on a scale that it just like doesn't. I think that it makes sense when you're on a scale that having the paper pot transplanter means you don't have to hire an employee. Basically, the paper pot transplanter is like the equivalent of like an annual wage for the amount of efficiencies that you get. And I believe it, because it's like they're like it's fast. Yeah, I mean, my like the other thing too, like I like it, and I don't, you know, we might actually get one. We've talked about getting one. It's just there's a couple things that, like, because people always love them, so you don't necessarily see people saying like bad stuff about it. But it's like, if you have issues with germination, you need to have your seedling game like spot on, because with the paper pot thing, if you have like spotty germination, you just planted a row that's like 50% germination, because it's not like when you hand transplant and if only 50% of them pop up, it's fine. You just still plant what you have. There's no going, like, you know, when I've heard people say like the trick to that, if you have germination issues, is that you know, make a tray of seedlings so that you can go back in after and like transplant for the gaps. But yeah, like I've seen them go in when there's bad germination, and it's, you know, it's totally not the point of the thing, and it, like, you know, it becomes a really big concern. And then the other thing is, I've seen it getting used, and it doesn't actually plant in. It's like sticking way up above the ground, probably like Sarah, like what you have with the rocky clay, and then you like the machine's garbage at that point, because it's spread the chain out for you, but then you have to go and like manually plant it in. But I think that's also, you know, there's going to be a learning curve to it. I think, like, Mio Gardino, weren't you the one who was saying that you bought the greens cutter, but you've had tons of issues with the greens cutter? Because I think that the greens cutter is another one, which is, if you use it right, it's a lifesaver. Okay, there's someone else that I talked to a bunch, and they were saying that they have the greens cutter and they hate it. It destroys all their crops, and they're pissed that they spent the money, because it's like $1,000 tool for me here in Canada, and they were trying to tell me that I shouldn't get it, that it's like a waste of money. But like, I kind of want to get that tool this year for the exact same reason as like what they're saying, which is, if you cut the stuff too low, then you make it so it won't grow for like a second and third cutting. But that's just like learning to do the tool. Like, I'm an idiot, so there's a good chance I could go out there with my knife and cut all my greens too low to get a second and third cutting, which is the reason why for my farm plan I have lettuce at the rate that I have a fresh bed coming every week, because I 100% think I'm going to go out there and mess it up. But yeah, it's, I think sometimes, so like, you see the expert use the paper pot transplanter or the greens cutter, and it's a given that you should buy it, because they just make it look like such a lifesaver. And, and it is a lifesaver for them, but maybe to get there, they had to go through a year of like learning the tool and it not necessarily giving them the efficiency that they, now get out of the tool. So, maybe that might be the issue with the paper pot transplanter. But yeah, it is expensive. Because I'm Canada, so everything's expensive here. But I think it was like $5 per like the chain, the cardboard chain. And that might be for like the small. Yeah, exactly. You gotta learn. But that's why I have all my efficiency analyzers. That's why I have to make sure to film lots of me farming, so everyone can tell me if I'm like doing things in a way that'll like hurt my back in the long run, or if I'm like doing something wrong, they'll tell me. But I know I was planting out some, because I planted out my first. I had like a tray of like red mustard, and I had some choy seedlings, and I planted those out. And it's been a while since I've done any transplants, and I'm more of a direct seeder, so I don't necessarily have like a nailed in technique for doing transplants quickly. So I was like out there, and the first half of the bed took me forever to figure out like the proper technique to do it quickly. And then the second half of the bed that I planted, I was 3 times faster at that point. And that's gonna be the entire story of what I think is gonna happen on the farm this year. It's nothing's gonna happen quickly. Everything's gonna get messed up. And so I've tried to put buffer in there for learning. And then the expectation is there's just 2 things we want to do this year. We want to learn how to grow things on a farming scale, because being vegetable gardeners, we're not farmers. It's not the same thing. So we need to learn what it means to be farmers. And then we want to build a small marketing presence. So, we want to get out there with a bag of lettuce and a business card and start to be an actual farm. So then, come next year or the year after that, it's, we've taken those first steps to be able to build on for future years. But, it's all gonna be a pain in the butt, and there might be tears, but only the amount that will water the garden, not the amount to salt the earth, is the goal. Yeah, honestly, so Mio, I know because Ian's always talking about greenhouses. There's never enough greenhouses. And so the greenhouse, because I don't know if you were here when I was talking about it. Well, we have the best weather here, so I can't complain too much about weather. Yeah, so Ian's building me a greenhouse right now, but it's like a window greenhouse. But we still have the plastic to build another polytunnel. And yeah, we probably would do the pipe bender idea, but we might also be able to, see if we can find a connection for someone who already has a pipe bender somewhere. Oh, Edmonton. Okay, well, I feel bad for you. We were teasing because Tyson is the guy who's helping Ian build the greenhouse, who's visiting, and he lives in Edmonton. And we've been having the most beautiful weather. It's been sunny and super warm, and so then Tyson showed up from Edmonton, and instantly it got gray and cold. He brought the Alberta weather with him, and so now we've been telling him how nice it was, and now he doesn't get to enjoy the beautiful weather. Yeah, I like it when I have Calgary people and Edmonton people, or Chelsea from Little Mountain Ranch, and then she's all you guys are all like, oh yeah, it's so cold. We're so jealous. Yeah, I go on Instagram and YouTube, and then I see all the people down in Florida, and I'm like, no, why? Oh, you already have tomatoes, and I have snow on the ground still. See, I like it when I don't have to be jealous of other people's weather. But I mean, we don't have to deal with all those scary soil pests, those weird, horrifying. Yeah, but that's the best thing about Kelowna, not having blight. But you can have blight, yeah, totally. I mean, fair. She does get some cold weather, but yeah, it's not Canada cold. That's when people are we're out in our t-shirts and we're like, oh, it's super nice out. It's 10 degrees, and everyone's like, ah. It's well, it's all relative. You enjoy 10 degrees after it's been minus 30 for multiple months. That's a 40 degrees improvement. But even all those people, even seeing everyone's great weather, I still wouldn't trade Canada, or I wouldn't trade Kelowna for anything. I think Kelowna is as good as it gets. Ecocentric, where are you? Are you over in the Maritimes? I growing up here, we used to get the tomato hornworms. My mom, in her garden, there was the tomato hornworms, and but I haven't seen them since I was a kid. So I don't know what's up with that. I don't know why we used to have them, but we don't anymore. Oh man, Newfoundland. Yeah, that's definitely a hard one for growing. The rock, because Ian works in the oil patch kind of industry. He knows lots of newfies, and so he talks to them sometimes about their weather and things like that. And yeah, it sounds like that would definitely be a hard place to live, with the ocean and then the cold weather. I had a coworker once, and she lived on an island off of the mainland of Newfoundland, and she they were to get to their house, it had to be in the winter, and they had to take snowmobiles across, and so you could only go when everything was frozen, and then once things unthawed, you were trapped, you were isolated in your space, just because it was too expensive to travel in and out. And that always seemed just crazy. Yeah, they grow ice. Okay, more water. I can't believe I'm almost out of this. I really thought this soil would go further. Yeah, I believe it. I feel kind of bad. We're all ripping on you. We're all oh, Newfoundland, oh, the worst. But I don't know. I think every place has the things that are lovable about that place, and then the trick is to just you gotta pair the people who love those things, and then you love that thing so much that it makes up for the bad stuff. It's there's tons of people who hate Kelowna. I growing up, all of my friends hated Kelowna. It's oh, it's just because Kelowna's kind of weird. It's this agricultural area, but it's not really, and so it's got a very unique culture. But yeah, so many people just don't like it. It kind of has a douchey California bro vibe to it. It's kind of a party town. But I love that. I love that. you know, there's all this like energy in the summer and everything. But yeah, and then I love, like, one of the things I love the most is I don't know what the Great Graham is. Yeah, but one of the things I love best about Kelowna, which people hate, is in the summer it gets so dry that like all the grass dies, and so it has like all these crazy. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. It just capitalized. Yeah, so it gets like the mountains are yellow because it's just dead grass, and then there's lakes everywhere. Like we're surrounded by all these lakes, and so then it's like these blue lakes, and then the yellow mountains, and then the blue sky, and it's such a unique look, and I love it. I think it looks amazing. But then other people are like, oh, it's so dry. Like I could never live in a place like that. I need like the lush green. Just reading the comments. Yeah, I like Behavens. That makes sense to me too. Yeah, I mean, you know, like the one, like my one thing, like ecocentric homestead, is like for a lot of that stuff is, you know, it sounds like kind of a similar idea. It's, you know, it's fun to find out what grows well in a place, and you know, it's like it's a limit, like because you can only do what grows in that space, but you know, like working within limits is nice and fun. Like for the life of me, I can't grow celery, and I could keep trying. I could try over and over and over again to finally get some like edible celery. But I'm like, why? Like, there's so many other things I could try to grow. Like, why not just try to find the stuff that does grow well here? And you know, I have a lifetime to experiment with things. I'm not going to pull my hair out over trying to grow some celery. Oh, wait, 9. That means 450. Okay, so I'm just gonna finish this bucket because it's like I need to go grab some more materials to mix up another set of potting soil. So I'm gonna finish the live stream, you know, in the next 5 minutes or so. But yeah, I definitely need to get a little bit more experience on this because it definitely is looking like it's gonna get all day to plant and to pot and seed these. It definitely is gonna take me a 10-hour session. Yeah, the fires were really bad here last year. Like we had a whole month of just like, you know, horrible air quality. One of the things I've actually picked up for the farming this year is a ventilator. It's like a fairly good quality one so that I can actually go outside and get some work done. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to grow carrots here because it's so dry. Like it's hard to keep the soil moist enough to get the carrots to germinate without drying out and dying here. But hopefully I'll figure it out since that's the one thing I want to grow. You know, I always say there's always radishes. Whenever I feel bad about my gardening skills, I plant some radishes, and then it makes me feel like a pro. Pretty much, I figure, you know, it's a good starter one because there's very few places that radishes won't grow, but you know, makes you feel a little bit better. Put something in the ground and have it grow into like a nice plant so quickly. We have a kumquat, which is a citrus. It's like one of the most cold hardy citruses, and it's in a pot, and we pull it into the garage in the winter, and then it lives outside in the summer. And it's about 4 or 5 years old now, And it actually produces like a ton of little fruit. Like I'm amazed how well it does for the hard, sad life it lives. But Ian and I have talked about getting a Meyer lemon, which is like another cold hardy one, to like kind of do along with the kumquat. And they like, you know, give them, they're like a tree, so trees take a while before they start doing good. But yeah, you know, I'd take 3 lemons. I really like, that was like, I can't keep anything alive inside my house. So the putting stuff out in the garage was kind of the game changer for me. Like it doesn't freeze in our garage, but it gets cold enough that the plants kind of go in like dormant. And it's made a huge difference for me, because if I bring them inside, I don't know, there's just something that I do that kills houseplants. Yeah, I think they do need a little bit of cold. I think that's like maybe why. It's just, maybe it's like my tomatoes, 24 hours of light and they're unhappy. Mine, when I put it in the garage, it goes kind of dormant. Like I stop watering it and it gets cold, and so they kind of all like just stop growing. They get all dried out and kind of die back. But okay, almost 10 trays in an hour and a half. So I still need 40 more trays. So that means how many hours? So just 6 more hours. I'll just be here until 8:30. No big deal. All right, but I do have to go make soil, and I know that this is the most interesting live stream that's ever been put on YouTube, but I'm gonna call it a day. But I might come back and live stream again tomorrow when I'm planting my seeds. I can give you guys my list of everything that I'm actually planting. If I can get these blocks made, then I'd have a full day of it. But thanks so much, guys. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me and chatting with me. It definitely it made this a lot more interesting and the day go by a little bit quicker. So thanks. I'll see you guys next time. Okay, bye now. Oh, maybe not, because I can't figure out how to end this. Okay, bye.